Hey, I'm Connie.
And I don't know who I am. And I'm Connie too.
And we are
That New Travels Fast. What are we talking about today? Oh, wait. First, please like right now. Just hit the like button right down there.
Share
and subscribe. What are we talking about today?
So we have a question. It's kind of a lot, but not. The question is, how do I lead? How do I submit? How do I lead when the team members may be more gifted or talented than me? How do I submit when I feel that my gifts and talents may be equal or greater than my leader? They want to know in job/business, relationship/marriage, and in ministry.
Okay.
What do you think?
You asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think that we have a tendency to put ourselves and other people on levels, which I think is a really bad thing because you end up being in a comparison trap. If you go on to, and I find this happens too when I hire people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll hire somebody that, okay, so I've been doing this cleaning business. This is my cleaning business, and I'm hiring you to help me clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I hire you, and I'm asking you to abide by my cleaning rules.
Right.
A lot of times people will come on and they think that their cleaning is better. So for instance, one of the last people that I hired, she was like, I don't really like to use, because we use a cloth to do glass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like using cloth. What did she say? There's these glass wipes that I really like that I think they work better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, you're more than welcome to buy those. I'm not buying those.
Did you tell her that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like, oh, okay. So she bought the glass wipes, right? And so on a few of the houses, we would do our final walkthrough, and it's smudgy. The glass is smudgy all around. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, now take this Windex and this rag, redo the glass, you know? And so a lot of times people have their own thought about, you know, she immediately thought a rag is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows better.
Okay.
Right?
So she didn't know how to submit, would you say?
No, she pretty much submitted to everything else, but I think she just was a diehard glass wipe person, I would guess. The issue with that is when you're going into everyone's houses, people don't understand that every mirror is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
All mirrors are different. What you do in front of the mirror is different than what I do in front of the mirror. If you use hairspray, that hairspray is going to be on your mirror.
Mm-hmm.
If I brush my teeth and I'm sloppy, toothpaste is going to be on my mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be something different I have to do with your mirror than I do with my mirror. But anyway, going back to what you were saying, I think a lot of times humility is the problem.
Okay.
If you are going into someone else's territory, so for instance, I visit a church, I joined that church, I now have to submit to, the pastor and what he is teaching the people overall. Now, let's say one of my gifts is the prophetic. Let's say that pastor doesn't prophesy at all, right? Okay. I would have to submit to that because I am in his territory.
And you are under his leadership.
And I am under his leadership. So if he decides that no one is going to be prophesying up in here, I have to make a choice. Do I stay and submit or do I just leave? Now,
Okay.
let's assume that God told me to go there because I don't go to churches without God telling me. So let's make this kind of real. Let's assume God told me to go there. I would assume that is for a reason. I would submit under that leadership. I would be in prayer. And it's really going to be, it will be really hard for me to constantly be thinking about the fact that he doesn't prophesy.
Mm-hmm.
I would now be sitting myself in a very judgmental position. This often happens too, like even like let's say we're in ministry, because in our ministry we have overseers and we have elders, right? So you have elder, overseer, then you have everybody else
The ministry.
on that
Yeah.
ministry, right? So the elder, let's say you come on that ministry and you find that you're more anointed than the elder is. You have to humble yourself under that person. It doesn't. And then how are you judging your anointing? Because God obviously put them in that position. Maybe man did. I mean, it could happen.
Right.
That man put them in position. But you have to respect the position. It's the same on any job. If you go on the job, you could possibly see that there's some things that need to be changed to help the job. What you do then is you pray and ask God for an opening to be able to share your information. But a lot of times our ideas aren't the best ideas for that job. They started this business, let's say 50 years ago. They're running it just fine, and they'll run it just fine without you. So you have to humble yourself. It's a humbling that has to be done. What are you thinking?
So I am agreeing, right? The 50 years, sometimes things do need to change.
Yes.
And hopefully you need to, like you say, pray for an open door where you can share those ideas. I think humility is very, very much important. I think because we talked about this at dinner, we mentioned like, okay, if you're at a church where they don't allow people to prophesy. So then my question would be, it's like, okay, they don't allow prophecy in this church, but that is my gift. So does God not use my gift at this church? Granted, he told you to go there for whatever reason. And I think you have to kind of seek the Lord on that, because sometimes the Lord be urging you to. So then you disobey God to obey man. Like, I think it's...
Well, no, you have to. So in that case, I would say you have to follow the rules of that church,
Okay.
right? Because there are rules there. For instance, if I go to court and there's a judge there, I can't just get up and prophesy to the lady behind me because I feel like God is saying something. They're going to tell me to sit my butt down.
Well, they're going to arrest you.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that God knows that. He knows where you are. But I am definitely this kind of person that's going to be obedient. So
To God, you mean?
to God.
Okay.
So if God, gives me a word for someone, I'll wait till after service.
Okay.
Follow them to their car.
Stop her. No, I'm joking.
Hey, God told me this while we were in service.
Okay.
I'm not in the building. And hopefully that goes over well. That he or she doesn't go back in the building and be like, this lady is out here prophesying to me. You know what I'm saying? But I think when God wants a word to get across, it usually does go over well. We're not talking about a word of rebuke. We're just talking about regular prophecy.
Okay, so
You get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying. So what if, like, the Lord is giving you something for the body and it's not for an individual person? You just
There's
shut
nothing
your
you
mouth?
can do.
Okay.
What can you do?
So I'm saying shut your mouth.
What do you mean for the body? What does that mean?
So sometimes in a service, right, the Lord will have a word for somebody else, and it's not necessarily coming from the pastor, right? It's happened to me, right? And they gave a word for the church, and then they sat down, and somebody else, they were speaking in tongues first, and they went to English and stuff like that. And my pastor at the time was like, blessing to the prophecy of.
Oh, okay.
And so now you're at a church where they don't allow that.
Right. So what you would have to do, you feel like God is really telling you.
Better know that you know.
Right. You better know that you know. You need to go see the pastor when service is over.
Okay.
And say, this is what God spoke to me during service. And let him do whatever he wills with it.
Okay.
If he doesn't believe in prophecy, he ain't telling nobody. But you got it off of you to obey and do what God told you.
Okay. So yes, I think it's an area of humility. I think you have to submit your gifts under the person that you are under, whether you are more anointed, whatever that means, or more talented or better at doing it, or can see things that they don't. And I think you have to be strategic in how you go about it, because sometimes when you think you know better, your question is not really a question. It's like, this is a better way, but it comes off in a question, which could be disrespectful, right? So I think that there is a balance to that. But I think you have to pray and help for submission. And I think we should talk about like what submission is, because she talked about, I think the person asked about relationships too. And so sometimes I see a lot, I won't say often, the woman is stronger spiritually than the man, yet she needs to submit under the man.
Right.
So, since you're married, what does that look like? I'll throw my point, but I'll throw it on you first.
So hopefully, and so that I don't forget my thought, I want to talk about being on a job again. Okay. So hopefully, he allows her to be free spiritually. What do I mean by that? If she, let's say she's prophetic, since we're talking about prophecy or whatever, he should allow for that to go on if she's prophesying to the children or whatever the case. If she wants to be a part of ministry, you got to be really careful when you are more spiritually strong than your husband, but you're coming under the ideals of Christianity, which is to submit to your husband. Because the one scripture that we actually forget about is submit one to another.
Yes.
We forget about that scripture. A lot of people don't even know it's in the Bible.
You want me to find it just in case?
Sure. It's in there. Submit you one to another. So husbands.
Ephesians 5.
Husbands are supposed to submit to wives just like wives are supposed to submit to husbands. And there should be a reverence, right? So this isn't a dictatorship where the husband is dictating everything. He has to allow the wife to be free. But also she has to respect that if they feel like, because the scripture doesn't say that he has to have the final say.
No, it doesn't say that.
But people preach that. So if she feels like he needs to have the final say, she has to respect whatever decision he's making, whatever decisions he makes, and then put all of her trust in God that he's making right decisions for the family. I try to say that slow so you can kind of get it. You know what I mean? Because if you don't put your faith on it with God, that he's going to make right decisions, you're going to find yourself in a very stressful place when he's making bad ones.
So what do you do when he's making bad ones and you're submitting one to another?
Well, first of all, you want to make sure that you have open communication.
Right.
And you want to make sure that every time he makes a mistake, that you're not the one to the I told you so person. You don't never want to be that.
Yeah.
That's going to kind of kill the communication. It's going to kill the relationship. There are going to be times when you might give advice and he don't take it and it turns out bad. What you do is you take all your thoughts to God. There's no need to go to him like, see, if you would have listened to me and all of that, you know how we want to do. If you would have listened, I hear from God. You ain't hearing. I mean,
that's bad. That's bad.
So you don't want to do all that. You just want to pray that he develops a prayer life and that he develops a relationship with God where he's hearing from God.
Okay. So the practical thing, right? Because we talk about praying and we need to pray. Don't get me wrong. And Lord, help and guide him and stuff like that. Because we are doing that. In practical stuff, he's saying, let's do this. This is not the best decision. Practically, you just submit and do that and then pray to God. Is that what you're saying?
No. Well, there should be open communication where you were allowed to say how you feel about the thing. So let's say he's like, let's say Sean comes to me later and is like, hey, I want to start this dog business.
Okay.
I'll be like, what? So usually if he says something that catches me off guard, I just take a deep breath and I'll be like, okay, hold up 1 second. I'm going to come right back. Because now I need to pull it all together. What you mean, dog business? I got to get that all out of me,
Okay.
And then I would go back and say, because I really need to be thinking clearly and wise.
Mhm.
Because he needs to know the reason why we shouldn't do this. And it shouldn't be about me personally.
Correct.
So I need to get all the information. How would we start it? How much is it going to cost? You know, blah, blah, blah. So now I really, while he's talking, I need to be in tune with God. Okay, God, what do I say here? You know what I mean? And so stuff will come to my mind. Oh, okay. So it's going to cost $10,000 up front. You know, we still had planned to do this in April and this in June. Are we still going to be able to do those things if we put $10,000 up front?
Mhm.
You know, and I know that when you do start a business, it may take a while for you to get, for the revenue
Yes,
to
as
get
well.
going.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that's the moment where you want to ask questions.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And hopefully he's not the kind of, hopefully he's not full of pride. I know a lot of us have husbands like that though, where you start asking questions and he's just angry because you asking questions. Like, don't question me. You know, that's what I mean when I say the communication needs to be open, where you're able to talk, you're able to ask questions, you're able to, you know, converse about a thing. And then there have been times when I was like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. You know, let's just pray about it.
Mhm.
Now there was times when he was like, I prayed already. Like, I'm trying to do this.
Okay.
But I was just like, oh, okay. So I just let that be. Go to God. I'm like, God, I don't feel this in my spirit. Is it me? Is it you or is it me? Who is it? I'm
Okay.
not feeling this. So, you know, sometimes God will be like, no, that's his flesh. He just want to do this thing. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So I'm like, oh, okay. So God, I pray that you just begin to deal with him.
Mhm.
Deal with him concerning it. Let him see. Let some information pop up. You know what your husband does on a regular basis. Let's assume he goes onto Facebook,
Mhm.
right? Then you're praying that whatever he's clicking on is answers to questions that he needs answered.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Lord, let somebody pop up that's going to encourage him. Let somebody pop up that says this business is trash. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you want to leave it, you got to leave it all in prayer if you're submitting yourself under someone.
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk about, did I answer the question?
You did.
I'm not sure. Okay.
You can go to.
I wanted to
business.
talk about, like, when you go on a job, and let's say you've been there 10 years, you know everything, right? And you're like secondhand man to the boss.
Mhm.
And then the boss is like, oh, my son just turned 18. And so now my son is going to be secondhand man.
And you're third.
And I'm third now,
Okay.
right? Of course, you're going to feel some type of way.
Mhm.
Because secondhand 18-year-old that don't know nothing is making more money than you. And you now have to teach secondhand 18-year-old the job. So now what do we do? Number one, stay out your feelings. Stay out your feelings.
Mhm.
Go home. Okay, God, what do we do here?
Mhm.
Is it time to leave?
Right.
Do I train this young man with a pure heart, not with no attitude? Because it's not the 18-year-old's fault
correct.
that
Yeah.
the dad hired him
Mhm.
to be above you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
How do I go about this? Now, there's one or two things. God might be like, yeah, it's time for you to go. I got something else. God could also be like, I want you to train him, but I also want you to have a conversation with your boss about, the extra work that it's going to take to do your job, plus training
Train him.
another person. And is there compensation for training other people?
Mhm.
So you see how that turned out? Now, initially, you're not thinking in your mind those words like that.
Mhm.
Who do he think he is, hiring somebody above me when I did this and I did that? And I
That's
done paid
also-
him $1
that's
million
also pride.
over here. And I
That's
done,
also pride.
but that's usually how it be like.
No, I'm
when
not
you
disagreeing that you're
Right,
not
right.
doing that.
when you first get angry, your thoughts be like,
Yeah.
you be ready to fight. But that's why you
And
have
you're
to.
offended initially.
Yes, initially, when you found out that you're
You're
like,
like,
what? Right. You're hiring your 18-year-old and I have to train him? You know what I'm saying? So even if you didn't respond right first, Let's say you got smart with your boss that day when you found out he was hiring his 18-year-old. Go home, pull it together, get it right, come back and apologize to the boss. You know, I apologize for my attitude yesterday. I was taken aback. I was a little shocked. So I apologize for how I came off.
How I responded.
How I responded to you. It's very exciting that your son is coming on board. Since I'm going to be training him, will there be any compensation for, me training him? Because I'm going to still have to do my job. Mm-hmm. Plus I have extra responsibilities now. So you give your boss the opportunity to say, no, you ain't getting no more money, or yes, you are getting more money.
Okay.
And then if he say you ain't getting no more, no, you're not getting no extra money, then now you need to make a decision, because he's letting you know you're not going no further than this. You might initially thought you was going to be vice president one day. He got an 18-year-old. You're not. So he's letting you know this is where I'm going with it. This is going to be a family business, and we're going to go down the family line. This is as far as it goes for you. So is this where you want to be capped at? Mm-hmm. So now it might be time for you to just look for a new job. Don't quit till you got a new job, though. It might be time to look for a new job. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was it.
Well, no. So I think it's good. I think submission is. I think we didn't talk about what submission is, and so submit is to kind of be under somebody. It doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion, but I think when we hear the word submit, sometimes it's like, oh, I have to do what they say because they are in authority over me.
Not necessarily.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's what some people think about. Like, oh, it's to submit under. Because if you think about the way we're taught, like he has a final say, you can give your opinion, but he make the decision, right? So I think sometimes singles are a little leery of that. I know I have a friend who doesn't really she almost like, I don't really know if I want to get married, because she sees submission as like, you're my father and I do what you say. And that's not what it's supposed to be in a marriage or any relationship. I need to hear you out. You know what I'm saying? And consider what you're saying and talk to you about it. And then make a decision. So who has the final stamp after the conversation?
Well, I think the issue is the way that we teach it in Christianity.
Right.
Because the Bible does not say that he has the final say. I think that especially with this generation, the generations coming up that see that that's some foolery. Because it is some foolery, especially if your husband is not mature in certain areas. He can't have the final say in some stuff. You got to make the decision because you're more mature. You know what I'm saying? And if he's not mature enough to know your strengths and be able to use those properly, you're in trouble.
You need to be considerate of who you're going to submit to. And
yeah.
who you marry.
So when you get into a relationship, y'all should be talking about being teammates.
These are the things we need to talk about up front. Like some of these things.
Up front.
Not wait until I'm all deeply invested and we in engagement.
Right.
Even though that can stop an engagement or keep it. But I think it's some things to talk about and consider early. I think another thing, and I'm not going to get off topic too much, that you need to consider, if you know that there's a specific lifestyle or what that you want, and the person that you're dating just doesn't agree or don't believe that
already.
Yes. Because he's not able to give you what you want, or she's not able.
Right.
So why are we staying? You know what I'm saying? But I think we are so afraid to talk about those things up front. I don't know where this fear is coming from.
Because the fear is, I'm never going to have a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife.
So I can't talk about real things and know if you're the right one. Like, if you don't wait this long.
And so you end up in an abusive relationship.
Correct. And you was doing fine by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You were sane. You wanted companionship.
Still had your mind.
You had your mind and all your hair and your teeth, right? I'm just saying.
You hair and your teeth.
I'm just saying, right? And then we get in this relationship, and the only benefit we're getting is probably sex, but you stressed out all the time, so you may not even.
And you find out that is not the major thing in marriage. Like, once you get in there, you're like, you literally can have it whenever. That's not the biggest deal. I mean, it can be the biggest deal depending on what's happening. But if you're flowing sexually, That's not the biggest deal. The biggest deal for me
It's
is
everyday life.
everyday life is being considered. Like, that's the word you use. Being considered in decisions. You know, gentleness,
Right.
empathy.
Right.
If I'm having an emotional day, I don't need you to be offended that I'm emotional. I just need you to hold me or hug me or something.
Right.
Like,
And when I ask you, could you do something? I don't need a lecture.
right.
Right? Because that sounds teacher father-ish.
It does.
Right.
And then a lot of times too, I wanted to talk because my
Sorry.
husband mentioned this at the table, and that this was one of the thoughts. He said that some men will be like, you ain't my mother, stop telling me what to do.
Right.
But at the same time, you are constantly having to tell them what to do because they don't know what to do. So I think you have to know up front if your husband has been taught anything about being married, because if you know all about marriage, right, the roles, you've been taught, you've been trained, and then he comes in and knows absolutely nothing, you'll find yourself constantly saying, oh, we need to do it this way, we need to do it that way, and he'll find himself in a mother-son relationship
That he doesn't want.
that he doesn't want and you don't want either.
No.
So it's like, why are you telling me not to tell you what to do, but then yesterday when you didn't do such and such, you was like, I should have told you to do that. So a lot of confusion can happen when you're not on the same page with each other.
Right.
And
I feel like that is the purpose of dating. To finding out what page you're on, to finding out the strengths and the weaknesses, and then choosing if those are the weaknesses I can live with.
Yeah, and stop thinking that we can change people. Because if he says, if he says, I don't want children, and you always envisioned yourself with 5, and you thinking in your mind, oh, he's just young, maybe he'll change his mind later.
No.
Like, no.
Let him change his mind and hope you're still available when he figure it out.
Right. When I was selling art, this was many years ago, the lady, I think she was 56, I think she was. And she had such a love for children, and she regretted not ever having children. So I asked, well, why didn't you have any? She's a whole married woman. They do well financially. Husband had a good job. I think he was a pilot or something or other. And he, from the jump, said he didn't want to have children. And she thought over time that would change. He went and got a vasectomy.
Did he talk to her about
He
it?
meant it when he said he didn't want no children.
Did he talk to her about that?
I was so shocked by her answer, I didn't ask no more questions.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was just like, oh.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the art.
And she...
Right.
And so she had in her mind that I'm going to honor this marriage. She never had a child. Never even had the opportunity to have a child. So...
And she knew that before I do?
She knew he didn't want children before I do.
Okay.
And he meant it.
Never mind.
We have to be very careful when we are listening in conversation to people to take exactly what they say as face value. So if your values are you want children, or even if you are on the fence, right? I'm not sure. I might want children. I might not. But the spouse is like, no, I don't want any. You need to be in a relationship with someone who either wants them or is on the fence like you are. Because if you go a couple years down the line and you're like, okay, now the body starts acting like it's ready for children. And he's like, I told you, I don't want kids. Now what? Now you in a whole marriage. And you like, I got to honor this marriage because he ain't cheating on me. Because that's the only out I can have. That's how we be thinking. The only way I'm going to get out of here is if he cheats on me. Because that's what the Bible says. You know what I'm saying?
I'm still on he got a vasectomy.
Oh my gosh! It happens every day.
Okay. What's submission mean?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
What's submission mean?
Submission means the act or fact, the action or fact of accepting or yielding to a superior force or to the will or authority of another person.
Yeah. You
So
surrendering those gifts, you surrendering your thoughts,
Right.
you're giving your opinion when it's asked of you, not voluntarily all the time. Okay.
yeah. So I think we've seen it done badly. We've seen dictatorships. We've
Yeah.
seen abuse. And so we think submission is abuse.
Yeah.
It's- and
It's a
it's
lot
not.
of dictatorship. Like, you do what I say, you don't ask questions. Like,
Yeah, that's a little crazy.
it is.
Because if we're going to be married to each other forever,
how does that work?
yeah, how does that work? It doesn't. It doesn't work. Because you're never going to be heard. Like, never.
Hmm.
Now, unless you're the type of woman that, just wants to submit and don't have no personality and don't care about nothing, I guess you would be okay with the dictatorship. I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't know.
I don't either.
I'm not okay with dictatorship, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. And so in ministry, if they feel like they're unable to submit, then they should get off the ministry.
Exactly.
Right. Or and out, I guess, the church too, because you have to submit under the pastor. You have to follow the vision.
Yes, and you're bringing a wrong spirit in there when you don't want to submit up
Mhm.
under the leadership.
Yeah. And I think that's when you have to go to God, because sometimes God may say, sit there and learn how to submit.
Girl, he said it to me. So,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Well, you got to humble yourself. You have to submit. You have to have your heart right. You have to do what's asked of you, not ask questions in a condescending way like, but I think, but doesn't that paint work better? Because that sounds like a question, but it's not a question.
Right.
It's like, you don't know. That's the wrong paint. I know better. Right? And that's not right, because that's dishonorable as well too.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be like that to your leader. And I think you would pray, like, because sometimes God is teaching you how to submit in certain areas, because you have to submit to God. God doesn't make us, and it's probably a little hard to submit to God because, okay, he's not a person, it's not here. But I feel like if you can't submit to a live person, then it's very hard to submit to God.
Right.
And I think it's a challenging, even when your gifts are stronger. And like I said, I feel like a lot of times, I've seen it a lot of times with a woman is stronger spiritually. And I be wondering, how does it work in a home? Not to say that he is not head or provider or leader or whatever, but it's hard because you might be in tune, but also you're advocating for yourself. But I just don't want to say just pray, because sometimes people need tangible, real life things they can do in order to be able to work. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's all in your conversation, like, hey, honey, well, I was thinking about this, and yada, 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 what do you think about this? And making it more conversational instead of just, I don't agree and I ain't doing it, because then there's division.
Because you want to have a mutual respect for each other.
Right.
And so if you're talking to me crazy, I'm not going to want to listen to you anyway, whether I'm a man or a woman. Like, don't talk to me crazy.
Right. Christian or not. Like,
right.
like,
yeah. Don't, so, you want to have a mutual respect for each other. But, as we were talking about church, like, how do you know when the word is for you?
How do you know when the word is for you? I think it's speaking to your situation. I know there was a time, like, I would go to church, and what I was thinking about, conversations I would have, like, questions would come from the pulpit regarding that situation, right? And so it's like, Lord, what do I do about this? It's like all week I'm consulting God, and I'm listening for his voice. And it comes from my pastor. It comes from my friend. It comes from something I'm reading, something I'm listening to, and you get those answers. So I think when it speaks to your situation, something that has resonated with you, or even if it's something that you never considered, like, I never thought about that, and then go inquire of God. So you should always be listening to what's for you and trying to get something out the message for you. I think when you're not every time, there's several things that need to be looked at.
Okay. I think that you have to be, so I would always pray and ask God to make me sensitive to hear his voice wherever it's coming from. So not just hearing him, just me and him, but also if a child says something.
Correct.
Or if, a stranger, an enemy, whatever. Like, I need to be able to hear God. And I remember thinking about the scripture where the donkey Balaam spoke to Balaam or whatever, and Balaam's like beating the donkey trying to go this way, and the donkey's
like, what? No.
yeah. So I remember that when I first got saved, and I remember saying to God, like, every day, like, God, let me be able to hear you in the midst. Because one thing I knew about some of the Christians that I was around is they were respecter of persons. So they would only listen to this anointed person or that anointed person. You know, you need to be able to hear from God however he's coming. But let's say that, like, for instance, our church, we talk a lot about prosperity. So let's say prosperity is going forth, right? And you're broke.
Okay.
And you're like, why, you know, I'm tithing, I'm giving offering, I'm doing everything that the man of God is saying, and I'm still broke. Like, I think sometimes people want to apply certain words for them out of season.
Okay, say more.
Okay, so I'm going to give an example. I remember being back in ministerial, and they were talking about being blessed and all that, and we were pretty poor at the time. Like, I remember, like, not having enough food in the refrigerator, like, and just, like, stressed about that. Like, not, you know, like, sometimes I even thought, oh, well, I won't eat dinner today so that there'll be enough for everybody for tomorrow. Like, you're working things out, you know, on how to make it flow so that the kids don't know that there's not enough food. You're not stressing out the husband, you know. That's where I was at with it at that time. Right? Don't stress him out, make sure he has enough food. And, you know, so I remember you know, somebody gave a testimony or whatever, and I was like, wow, you know, I'm really just believing it. They asked me a question, or they were just like going around. I was like, well, I'm just believing and trusting God to come out, you know what I mean, out of this area of poverty, you know. And they're like, you're not in poverty no more. Like, you know, they start rebuking me and stuff, right? So sorry, you're not in poverty, and your time is now, and, you know, blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, you know, I took the rebuke, right? I wasn't even like offended, like, because, you know, you can get offended if you know. I wasn't offended. I was like, okay, I need to check myself. I need to check my faith. You know what I'm saying? I walked out of the door, and I remember I took one step into the hallway, and God was like, that word is not for you for right now. You are going to struggle this entire year. I mean, he started giving me specifics about what was taking place and what was transpiring. And I learned in that moment, like, sometimes natural things need to happen
before spiritual things,
before the things that we are confessing in the spirit. You know what I mean? At that time, we needed more work. You know, our business needed to increase. There were things we specifically needed to do with our business in order to increase it. So, you know, it was like we had to get that stuff in order and in line so God can bless it. You get what I'm saying? So what I did was I was like, okay, God. So I just started praying that the kids have everything that they need, that I personally have, you know, that we have, you know, personally have everything that we need. As long as we all loving each other, we good to go, that we always have food to eat. You know, I just started, you know, praying that kind of stuff. And God really started blessing. Like, you know, I would go to somebody's house and they would be like, I don't feel like going to the donation. Can you take all this stuff? And in that stuff, like,
stuff that you need,
it would be like clothes for Selah, like a whole garbage bag of clothes for Selah. There would be stuff for the kids' bedrooms. I mean, it was like, it was constantly coming like that. And I was just like, wow, like in amazement on how God spoke that to me. Because that sounds crazy for God to be like, no, you're about to struggle about 9 more months.
why I work this out and get this.
Why I work this
why
out,
I get this out of you when you show you
yes,
this. All of
and
that.
there were some things that needed to be worked out in my husband. He told me about, and you know what? I don't know how many married women listen to this or whatever, but a lot of times God will speak to you about your husband, and let's just assume that it's in your mind a negative, right? If God speaks to you about him, he's letting you know so you can pray for him, not for you to be mad at him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if God says, hey, I got to work that spirit of poverty out of your husband and his mindset, right?
And you need to also be patient with him.
You want to be patient and also be in prayer. And put your trust not in your husband, but put your trust in God to make sure that everyone is okay. Because believe it or not, you were his child first, God's child, right? You're still his child. So he cares about what you need and what you want. Your trust has to be in him. And a lot of times we get married and we put our trust in the husband. And so then he's a man full of mistakes in the flesh and whatever, you know what I'm saying? He's not God. So it's going to put too much pressure on him to be perfect. So,
or not to make mistakes that
that
you deem are really big.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Omitting that you make it. So is that your answer to how you know the word is for you? Like, so you're getting this word, but God spoke to you and said, hey, this is not your season for it.
I think hearing from God is major. Just for me, like I don't know how I can't live without his voice. Like I would have made so many bad decisions, like so many. Now I do understand that some people, I think it's a part of my gift to hear from God. So I'm not going to take for granted that everybody doesn't hear like that. Like just ask God a question and hear an answer. Everybody don't hear like that. And I understand that. You can go wherever your gifts are and ask God to fine tune those gifts. So let's say you're a dreamer. You have dreams. Then you expect God to give you dreams to get your answers. But
however he communicates with
you. If you feel like you have to have a person come to you, which can really be dangerous.
Yes, that is.
But if you feel like that, you have to trust that God is only going to send people to you to give you the right wisdom and the right knowledge.
And you have to be open to hear too. I know sometimes when we are tired of hearing the same thing or feel like things are not working or we're not getting what we need, it shuts down our ability to hear, right? And so we're looking for another. And we're not open to whatever the message is. And I think that we need to be open to hearing from God in different ways, like you said, from other people, not just only your pastor. Like I believe we need to listen and follow them. But that doesn't mean that God can't give you a word from another pastor to a question that you've asked. Or another minister at a different church. Like I think sometimes we think only my words can come from this specific place. And I think that we miss so many opportunities when God is speaking. And it's like, oh, Lord, well, you're not giving it to me. He was like, I did suggest this, but that's like that group of people that we only listen to. So I think, discernment is really, really key. I think we need to also very much discern. But like I said, for me, I would be asking God questions or praying about things, and I'm getting the revelation at church, or I'm listening to a message and it's speaking to the season that I'm in. Because I realize that most times pastors are speaking to a congregation. And so every word might not be specifically for me. But I am seeking God to get something out of the message, out of everyone. But there are times when I will come across another pastor who is speaking to my season. And I hold on to that word. That does not omit.
I think too, you have to know what season you're in, though.
Oh, well, yeah. I forgot that.
I forgot that. Did you just say that?
I did. I forgot that. Yeah. But I'm not talking about like a specific season.
Though.
Like I know we got 4 seasons, so I'm not talking about specific season. But like, okay, like let's say I'm in transition, right?
Right.
And this message ain't even labeled transition. It's labeled, what is it called? Let's say the season that I'll use one of Bishop Jake's message. I was looking for something else. Oh, so I'm in a season of transition, and he does a message on strange tears.
Okay.
Right. So as I'm listening, it's like, oh, right? And so everything in that message, but there's some things he said that I feel. But then when he came on the back end with God, it gave me peace and what I was feeling about God. That 1 5-minute thing. Yep, gave me my thing, right? I'm still in the season of transition, but he preached a message on trauma, triggers, and triumph, right? Right? I'm in transition. I'm not thinking about trauma, triggers, and triumph. But in that message, I'm learning about my trauma and my triggers because it's affecting my triumph.
Yeah.
It's affecting my transition.
Oh, that's
you see what I'm saying? So it's, that's why you have to always really be open because I'd be like, oh, this will be a good message just because I know I deal with trauma, right? No, it's an answer and it doesn't have to be the whole entire message. I think we need to be open to hear from God. Even I think when we're reading the Bible, like, okay, God, where do I need to read? Sometimes we're going in order, right? Like I'm on Isaiah, but then I'm also doing like Matthew and then it goes to like Job. So I'm listening to Job and Isaiah, right? And so it's like, what am I getting out of this season? Job goes through a season of tragedies, but he also goes through a series of waiting before things start getting better, right? So in transition, there is a period of waiting. Yeah. So you see how so many ways God has spoke to me, two different messages in his word. You see what I'm saying? In conversations. So I think we have to also be open to hear. But I think you will know because something will sit with you and be like, dang, I didn't think about that. Or something that stretches you a little bit that you have to ponder and consider a little bit longer. It's like, And then I think also at the same time, you need to rely on your relationship with God, right? Because even whatever area you're challenging or whatever word you're getting, it's like, okay, God, what is the truth about who you are in my life? And who you cannot be, right? I don't know God to fail. I don't even like the song, He's Never Failed Me Yet. When you put yet, like it means it's going to happen later. It's a possibility that it might happen. So if God can't fail, why do we need to yet on it? I know it might sound good, but no. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we just need to be able to hear. And I think sometimes we're so focused on hearing from one particular person and it doesn't work that way.
Or a particular avenue.
Or people, and we're just not open. And so I want to say be open. And last thing I'll say about that, we also have to, this is when we put too much into our leaders, our pastors or whoever to give us a word, right? So I need to be seeking God also for myself throughout the week and not just getting upset because on Sundays, He's not giving me what I feel like I need.
Right.
Right? Because I need to be seeking God too. I'm not supposed to only be dependent on the pastor or the elder, overseer, whoever is preaching to give me a word for the rest of the week. Now, I know we go to church to get fueled up, to get ready so we can go out. But at the same time, my relationship with God, I should be seeking Him all week and getting stuff too.
Right. You're right. I absolutely. Yeah. You should be seeking the Lord all throughout so that you can be sensitive to His Spirit to be able to hear in whichever avenue that He's coming.
Right.
Well, praise God.
All right. Our Black History fact. Okay. So, what is his name? Okay, John Rock became the first African-American Supreme Court lawyer. And this was very interesting because he was born in one of the free states in New Jersey. And after the 14th Amendment, during that kind of Reconstruction era constitutional amendment, so changed the Constitution. That period became known as the America's second funding. All right, so let me jump to it. In 41 years of his life, John Rock defied the odds again. So his first occupation was a teacher. He began as a historian at 19. Oh, wow. Right? So, and then Clarence G. Conte wrote in the Supreme Court Historical Society yearbook that Rock worked almost to exhaustion. So he taught for 8 hours a day and then studied independently medicine for another 8 hours because he was attempting to become a doctor. He was refused admission to medical school because of his race. So he became a dentist, and opened a successful practice in Philadelphia where he met his wife. So they said no to a medical degree. He said, I'm going to be a dentist. He's resilient.
Very.
Right? So then he was in Philly. He did that. And then it says he didn't abandon his goal. He became a doctor. And in 1852, he graduated from a newly opened Electric Medical College in Pennsylvania, becoming one of the first Blacks to receive a medical degree from a regular medical school. After becoming a doctor, he moved to African American community in Bacon Hill, Boston, Massachusetts, where he practiced medicine, where his practice offered free services to fugitive slaves.
Wow.
Yes. He became very active and as an abolitionist speaker during the same period. Okay, and all right. So then over the years, some things he did. Okay, after a few years in Boston, Rock became gravely ill, and by 1858 determined that his best hope for treatment would be to travel to France for surgery. In order to travel to France, he needed a passport. But by 1858, the Secretary of State had taken the position that passports were not issued to persons of African extraction. Yes, citing the U.S. Supreme Court decision in 1857, the Dred Scott versus Stanford decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he wasn't able to do it. So what happened was, jump down because it talks about that. So after he was refused a passport because of his race, he secured a passport from Massachusetts and traveled to France for treatment. Though his health seemed to improve, by that time he returned to Boston, he was too ill to continue working as a doctor. Perhaps he was really sad by the Dred Scott decision. And so he decided to change his career again. So after serving as a teacher, then a dentist, then a doctor, he decided to become a lawyer.
This is crazy.
Yeah, so he practiced law in Massachusetts, making him one of the handful of African American lawyers in the country. Almost immediately after his admission, he wrote to his friend, Senator Charles Sumner, saying he hoped to be admitted as a U.S. Supreme Court lawyer as soon as possible. Sumner didn't appear to have responded, according to the historian books. Yada yada. After the Civil War broke, during the war, Rock helped recruit volunteers for the famous 54th Regiment of Massachusetts, the first official African-American regiment popularized in 1989. Oh, and that was, okay, the Academy Award film Glory was based on that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, putting it all together.
Yeah.
He did not give up becoming a Supreme Court lawyer, a prospect that likely appealed to Rock, according to Brooks. Okay, so he believed that he would need to represent other African-Americans before the High Court, and in part, because Rock wished to practice law before the very justices who, in the Dred Scott rule, because of his race, he could not appear before the court as, okay, so, yes, it's a motion, not understood, Dred Scott opinion. Okay, when Taney died in October 1864, he was replaced as Chief Justice by Solomon Chase, an abolitionist appointed by President Abraham Lincoln. Rock renewed his request to Sumner for favor on his behalf and asked the court to admit him as a lawyer. According to Brooks, Sumner wrote to the Chief Justice Chase on Rock's behalf, calling him a wonderful lawyer who is daily recommended then in Massachusetts, Governor Andrews and others. So on January 15th, 1865, Chief Justice Chase raised possibility that Rock's admission in a private meeting with other justices, including 4 justices who had sided with Taney in the majority on the Dred Scott decision. All right. He was arrested on his way to court, just going back and forth trying to get it. Just trying to get the day. Okay, so he wound up becoming a lawyer, but he died before he was able to work on this particular project. Rock passed away just a few months later in December 1866 before the states could ratify the 14th Amendment in 1868 and without ever having a chance to argue himself before the Supreme Court. The first African-American lawyer to argue before the Supreme Court was Samuel Lowry, a former slave from Alabama who appeared before the court in 1880, 15 years after Rock became America's first African-American Supreme Court lawyer. That man was determined.
Talk about determined. Oh my gosh.
I was like,
teacher, dentist, doctor, lawyer.
Right. And then he got sick and said, hey, I shouldn't practice be a doctor anymore. I should go to law school.
Right.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Like medical school, law school? Like,
yeah.
Those are serious.
They are. And you be complaining about your little bit of school. Look.
Girl, medical
it's
school.
It's a little bit of school.
Medical school
compared to what he was doing.
And this doctor program, all in it.
You got a little bit of school.
No. So yes, this is determination. So it's just interesting to see that all that we have accomplished and can do. And then it's in that time when he was going up against race. You know,
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Couldn't get a
Racism.
passport. Right,
Yeah.
racism at a different level than we're experiencing right now.
Right.
Because at least we have laws that say it's wrong, whether they're upheld or not is another
Right.
story. But yes,
Wow, that was good.
dentist, teacher. No, he taught for 8 hours.
What's his name
And-
again?
John Rock,
John Rock, R-O-C-K.
R-O-C-K.
Y'all should look that up because that's a good little story.
Yep.
Wow.
John Rock, born in New Jersey in 1825.
All right.
Taught for 8 hours, studied for 8 hours. He spent all of his 16 hours a day. The other 8 he was asleep.
Wow. Wow.
We gotta
That's
do something different.
amazing.
We gotta do something
Yeah,
different.
I know, right? Make you feel bad about your little stuff. You're like, well, dang, I ain't doing enough, am I?
Right.
Well, we thank y'all so much for watching and listening to us. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Y'all don't be commenting.
Right.
We need y'all to comment. Let us know how you feel, what you think. We want to know.
And send questions in the comments below or in the email so that
Oh,
we know.
yeah. If you have any questions you want us to
Any topics.
talk about, yep, just put it right on down there in the comments and we got you. Thank you so much. You have a good day.
Bye.